Welcome to the Broncos podcast with Troy Rank. I'm your host, Troy Rank from the Denver Post. Holy WTF. Did we just watch that? Did that really happen? Walked off in back to back weeks. Did the Broncos become the Rockies and I didn't get the email? Holy smokes. This Broncos team's talking Super Bowl and they can't be good teams. They cannot finish. They're the NASCAR driver. Gets into that last bend and hits the wall. They're the kid that asks a girl for prom and then forgets to go to the dance. You got to finish. What in the world? Broncos get walked off back-to-back weeks. They lose to the Chargers 23-20. I predicted that score with the Chargers winning 23-20. Not with any joy. I just didn't think the Broncos could play smart enough football to beat them. And ultimately, it played out that way. There's a stat that I'm going to give you when we come back after the break that will open your eyes as to why they lost. But this is a problem. There is a trend developing here that is particularly concerning for a team that began this summer with Super Bowl aspirations. Now it's time to hit the reset button. You got plenty of time, but you are now 3 games back from the Chargers, 3 games in. Because they would have a tiebreaker. You'd play them again. And all 3 of the Chargers' wins are in the division. Broncos 1-2, an absolute cheese grater to the shins, get walked off for the second straight week by the Chargers. I'm going to break it down. We got some sound from J.K. Dobbins, Courtland Sutton, Nick Bonito. I'm going to break it all down, and we hear from those players after the break. Have you been injured in a car wreck or hurt at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggatt Injury Law a call. Their motto with us, it's personal. That's because it is. I've known Darby Hoggatt forever. We became good friends. Many of his clients become his good friend. That's just how Darby rolls. You don't even have to pay Darby up front. Your case goes as planned. Darby will be the one writing checks to you. So again, if you've been injured in a car wreck or hurt at work, give Darby's team a call. It's 1-833-HOGGATT. That number again, 1-833-464-4288. Or visit the website at hoggattlaw.com. Welcome back to the Broncos podcast. I am still in my hotel room here in LAX, out at the airport. I have an early morning flight, and I know who will not be sleeping well. Sean Payton and that coaching staff for the second straight week have found a way to gag away a game. It was worse with the Colts, with Shane Steichen literally trying to go Nate Hackett and give you a game. But this was similar. There's a few stats I want to throw out there to give you an idea of why the Broncos are 1-2. And could very easily be 3-0. I'm calling them the Almost Broncos. That is a dirty word in sports. Almost. Oh, we almost won. We almost got the pass. I almost asked the girl for a date. I almost bought that sports car. It's a term that associates unfulfilled potential. And it's often a term associated with losing teams. And that's what the Broncos are right now. It doesn't mean they'll stay that way. But how in the heck did we get here? Well, the Broncos, if you can believe this, folks, have had a chance 6 different times the past 2 weeks to extend their lead to 2 scores in the second half against both the Colts and the Chargers. And you know how many times they've done that? 0. Thanks to Nick Kosmider from The Athletic for that stat. It's just unbelievable. I mean, they were 20-13, had a chance to open up the game and go up 10 there, and they win that game. And they just can't do it. They cannot do it. They're so inconsistent offensively. But what is this trend we're talking about that is so concerning? It dates to last year, and I asked Peyton about it, and he didn't want to participate in it. And it's very similar when I asked him a few years ago about teams that they couldn't hold a halftime lead, and they had lost at that point 7 or 8 straight, including 3 with him. And he's like, it's not our hump. This team's got more humps than a camel all of a sudden again. They're 2-8 against teams in 1-score games dating to last season. 1-6 last year, and now they're 1-2 this year. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, how can this team not finish? The Colts game, you had that interception by Bo late, a missed field goal by Lutz, penalties to Dobbins and Troutman, and then that's just obviously idiotic leverage penalty that cost them to get walked off last week, where a guy who had never attempted a 50-yarder, let alone made one, and you're trying to block a 60-yarder. This was different. It was more of an execution thing because Justin Herbert's playing at MVP level. But the Broncos had a chance to put this game away. They get down to the 4-yard line and chance to put it away with a touchdown, and Troy Franklin gets a penalty. And now it's 2nd and 14 from the 14. You settle for a field goal, and now you're in danger. And the Broncos had chances, but they couldn't get a stop when they needed a stop. They could not get a stop when they needed a stop. So let's hear from Nick Bonito on that drive. That was the biggest drive, was the touchdown from Justin Herbert to Keenan Allen against Riley Moss, where Bonito had 2 sacks. He was right there in Herbert's face, almost. And Allen hauls in, essentially coming of a semi-one-handed catch. What did Bonito say after the game? He had facing Joe Alt, so it was a good battle, but facing Alt and just this idea of what the heck? How did the Broncos find themselves in this situation? Let's hear from edge rusher Nick Bonito.
You personally going up against a guy like Alt, what was that battle like?
I like going against guys like that. He's a good player in this league. Made each other better today, so it was a good game for both of us.
Does that make this hard, though? Like you said, just the inability to finish. You guys had long stretches of great play defensively, and then just not being able to, that last drive, put your foot. The second to last drive, really, that touchdown drive. Does that make it harder, Nick?
Yeah, it's very hard, man. We go 3.5 quarters playing good football. Last drive, we can't get a stop. So, man, it's frustrating.
How do you, it's 3 weeks in, I understand. How do you keep guys from getting discouraged because of the nature of the loss, getting walked off twice, back to back?
All things is discouraging. I think we know what we got to do as a team to get better. All we got to do is do that, and we're going to be better.
What is that?
Executing.
Yeah, he said it. It's just disappointing. You can't get a stop. And that's it. You can't stop. You can't finish. You can't put your foot down. If you are a good team, you win games like this. That's just how this works. The Broncos proved last year they could beat bad teams. That's part of the growth process. You're no longer a bad team when you beat other bad teams. But to be a good team and a contender, you have to beat good teams. And eventually you have to beat them on the road. They didn't do it in Indianapolis. Indianapolis is hot. They're playing great. And they're a clear favorite to win that division now, which helps the Broncos so they wouldn't lose a tiebreaker to a division winner. So that Houston game looms larger now in case Houston's clawing around for a last playoff berth. But you lose to Indianapolis, which their offense has just been on an all-time heater to start the season. But this game you had. And so the Broncos are up 20-13. And all of a sudden, Keenan Allen becomes like the central focus of the Chargers offense, and he hasn't been all day. Broncos were getting home. They got some good pressure, both from Cooper and DJ Jones and obviously Bonito. But when they need a drive to stop it at 2013, they get all the way down there. And then Bonito gets pressure on Herbert. Riley Moss is just all over Keenan Allen. And he had told me later it almost felt like the ball went through his arm. He stabs at the ball. He thinks he's got it, and he misses it. This is so symbolic of where this team is right now. Misses deflecting it by probably an inch. Allen catches it, touchdown. And Moss, to his credit, told me after the game, he's like, I'm tired of this crap. Enough. We've got to make a play in the big moment. And he pointed it himself. It's like, as a team we do, but I've got to make a play. We're tired of talking about it. And that's part of it. That's part of it. But how do they find themselves vulnerable to losing a game like that? There's a couple of stats, and one I want to give you that defines why they're 1-2 more than the scores on the scoreboard. In this game, Broncos, 9 first downs, 10 penalties. Hello? You're not winning games against playoff teams with more penalties than first downs. Frankly, it was a bit of a misnomer. You were in it. Their Broncos had 40. They didn't get their first down until 19 minutes left into the first half. They had 42 yards going into their last scoring drive in the first half when we're quick to criticize Peyton. Just an absolute brilliant play call on 4th and 2 where they faked a pitch and used formation to trick the Chargers, where they had McGlinchey and Bowles on the same side of the formation on the right side. So they faked a pitch to Dobbins, and Courtland Sutton was just like high school open, more open than 7-Eleven, 52-yard touchdown. And now you're in it. And then you come out and J.K. Dobbins goes off. And you get a lead and like you feel like, here we go. Here we go. He almost ended with 100 yards rushing. Again, we're now at 38 games and counting that Peyton has never had a 100-yard rusher with the Broncos. But you got then to a point where you needed a drive. You needed a single drive or a single stop. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. What did Dobbins have to say? So we're going to take a quick break, and I want to tell you and get you some sound from J.K. Dobbins because he's new to this. He's got an edge to him. Obviously, a winning player at Ohio State, had a weird career because of injuries, but pretty much wherever he's been, he's won. The Ravens and the Chargers. So he's got an edge to him. I want you to hear his honesty, and we're going to get to that after the break. Listen, life doesn't always shake out the way you thought. When you face curveballs from family challenges, divorce, legal separation, child support, alimony, custody, you need a lawyer who understands the human dynamics, the courtroom, and is willing to fight for your rights. You need Ted Shih. A graduate of Cal Berkeley Law, Ted brings 40 years of courtroom experience and 20 years of family law experience to your corner. Ted's been a social worker, a police detective, first and foremost, though, a trial lawyer. He has tried cases across the country and the state. Martindale Hubbell ranks Ted among the top lawyers in the country. You want an expert to navigate your family challenge? Call Ted. Ted's passion is putting you first. He will work to settle your case if possible, but he is not afraid to go toe-to-toe in a trial to protect your interests. Ted can be reached at theoshih@aol.com. That's TheoShih@AOL.com, or call Ted at 303-475-2981. That's 303-475-2981. Ted promises to respond to your concerns within 24 hours, 365 days a year. Man, Broncos. How do you not win that game? And I mean, again, if you didn't watch the game and you looked at the stats, you say, well, easily they didn't win it. I mean, they just got dominated offensively. You get 9 first downs. You basically have no offense. You have 3 3-and-outs to start the game. I mean, your first quarter offense, you had ran 9 plays for 13 yards. I mean, it's hard to win when you dig that kind of hole, but your defense was keeping you in it. It reminded me a lot of the 2016 team where they were still talented, but they lost the margin for error with their offense, and you take Peyton Manning away, like that magical fourth quarter elixir guy who things aren't going great, and all of a sudden puts a drive together. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't put a drive together. They couldn't get a stop. But Dobbins had a great second half. I mean, he had -4 yards on 4 rushes in the first half and had 82 yards in the second half. Just absolutely showed burst. Just exploded 50-yard run. He's given them that explosiveness they've looked for over the last couple of years. But they can't overcome the mistakes. And here's Dobbins talking about facing his former team and this idea that to learn to win, you have to learn not to lose. That in the NFL, players say this all the time, and I know we shake our head, so many more games are lost than they are won. And the Broncos find themselves in that position. So let's hear from J.K. after a good game for him, certainly a great second half, but clearly a disappointing defeat against his former team.
It's too crazy. We just got to learn how to win the game.
When you say learn how to win the game, obviously you guys have had a few chances now, maybe a few weeks where you could have pulled ahead a couple of scores, just could have put the game away. But what do you have to do in those situations as an offense?
We just got to figure it out. We got to figure out what we need to do to get in the end zone. We got to figure out what we need to do to win the game. I don't know what else to say to explain it, but we just got to. It's a thing that you have to learn. When you have a bunch of winners, you know how to win. And so we have that. We just got to put it together. It's one thing to say, but we got to put it together.
You've been on successful teams. You've been on successful teams. Is it learning how? Is that something different with every team almost? Is there something different every year?
Winning is the same. Ain't nothing to learn different. Just thing is, you just got to finish the game. It's a learning process, and we have the guys to do that, and we will. We lost 2 games that we should have probably won, and we'll fix that.
For you, you had -4 yards rushing first half, 87 in the second half. What was the difference in the halves, and what did you do to regroup at halftime?
Look, that's my old team. Those guys know me. Mm-hmm. They came up to me and told me we wanted to stop me. So that's what happened in the first half, and we figured it out. We just got to keep building on the run game and get better.
What was the key to a couple of those long runs? 41-yarder and then the 19-yard touchdown. That's what was the key to those.
Just make a play. That's what the key is. I got to make a play, and I'm gonna make a play for my guys. So.
When you talk about finishing, is some of it when you look back like, hey, we're just getting penalized, we're kind of kicking ourselves here a little bit? Is that part of it, or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, penalties. You know, that's lose. We're losing the game. It's not necessarily the other team is beating us. It's the fact that we're losing the game. You know, we're not winning the game. We're losing the game.
Does that feel correctable then when it's like your own mistakes? Does that make it like when you watch it and go, Jesus, if we just stop getting penalized 8, 9, 10 times?
That's where you learn how to win.
Okay.
You know, you watch a film and figure it out, and that's how you learn how to win these type of games.
And then you hear it. You hear it in his voice when I talked to him at the end there, like, is that the penalties? And that is the one thing that it's not comforting, but it allows you to have a perspective. Like, Broncos players after without talking to are basically like, we don't deserve to win because we're making too many dumb mistakes, and specifically penalties. So they had 10 today. Probably 7 of them are legit. 2 or 3 are questionable, no doubt. And there was a couple that didn't get called. Like, that's every game. But you can't have this number. Last year, when the Broncos played the Chargers and got swept, they've now lost 3 straight to Jim Harbaugh. And Sean Payton's now 1-5 against Harbaugh. All one-score games. There's a trend here. Trend. But last year, the Broncos penalized 14 times, Chargers 5 times in 2 games. Here we go again today. Broncos penalized 10 times. We look at the Chargers 3 times. I mean, those are the things that cost you when you talk about these narrow margins, when you're giving up almost 100 yards of full football field in penalties again in a game you get walked off. I mean, it adds up, folks. It adds up. And it's biting the Broncos because they don't have that margin for error. And why didn't they? Well, again, Bo Nix was uneven. He did not have a good first quarter. Ultimately, the overall stats aren't bad. Like, again, Dobbins had 11 carries, 83 yards. And I love the fact Bo was running more. 8 carries, 33 yards. In the end, he's a little short for me. 14 for 25, 153 yards and a touchdown. I see like the winning formula for Bo is more like 22 for 30, 230 and a touchdown. And here's the issue. And then we have one more bite to come from Courtland Sutton. He'll address this at the end of this when I throw it to him. But Knicks missed 3 potential 2 touchdowns and 1 deep throw to Sutton that would have put them in position in the fourth quarter to get like a clinching field goal to go up 23, to go up 2 scores. Not 23, but to get to 23 points. And so what happened? One of them on Knicks, Knicks to Mims. Mims is running wide open down the right side of the field. And that one's frustrating because Bo, if you watch it mechanically, and again, part of my background's in baseball. I had a son who pitched, who scouts and does pitching in professional baseball now. But there's a mechanical issue where both shoulders were squared. He moved forward in the pocket and just kind of lever through it instead of like turning the shoulder, put the foot in the ground, get a little air under it. Overthrows Mims. Wide open. Would have been an obvious touchdown. Later in that in the game, he has Mims for a touchdown. He throws a liner. That one he had pressure at his feet. That one's a little different. And then again in the fourth quarter, a chance to get a huge game. It would have been around a 50-yard game to Sutton. It's a double move. I thought Sutton came out of his break a little slow, but I think maybe he thought the ball was going to be underthrown a tick, too purposely underthrown. And then he's trying to shift into fourth gear and move. And then by the time he dives, no catch. And Bo admitted afterward, like specifically on that, like you got to underthrow it a little bit, put some air under it. And because if nothing else, you could draw an interference. And that's where I think he has to learn from that. You can't, when like a guy's that open, like Mims specifically, that first one, but even Sutton, underthrow it a little bit. If he has to turn his shoulder and catch it off his hip, the defender's going to run into him, and he's not usually going to turn his head around, which we all know is an automatic, obvious interference. And now you got a 50-yard gain, and you get, in the case of Mims, the ball at the 1-yard line. In the case of Sutton, you're like in field goal range. You got to learn from these things. And so ultimately, Bo did some nice things with the 52-yard touchdown to Sutton. A great throw. He's wide open. Played pretty well in the second half, but pretty modest statistics. 14 for 25, 153, 1. He's pretty much now same number of touchdowns as picks. This was the game last year against the Bucks where he kind of turned the corner, and then he had the awful game against the Jets because of the weather and the balls, and it was a slick football. And then it was kind of after that game he really took off. This was that kind of game. It was going to be the signature win for this team, like last year at Tampa, and they just couldn't deliver. I mean, there's just no way around it.
Those games, and they're disappointing losses. At the end of the day, there's still L's that go into the column, but there's stuff to learn from, and it's still early in the season. We played 17 games, and so there's a lot of opportunities ahead of us. It's about how do we go into this next week and learn from the mistakes of this week and grow from it. Not allowing the things that beat us today beat us again next week, and then once we do that, then it's about stacking those positives on top of each other.
Back-to-back last-second heartbreaking losses. Does it feel like more than 2 losses for you?
I mean, yeah, it's not fun. I mean, losing is terrible. If you guys, anybody that's in my personal life, I don't like losing at Uno. I don't like losing at Daggum. Any card game, anything that we're being competitive in, I don't like losing. So it's not fun to be able to go out and put so much effort into the week in terms of preparation, and then not being able to see that reward at the end of the week. But there's always promise on the other end of that, and it's all about your perspective. And it's unfortunate that we haven't been able to see the success on the other end of this the past couple of weeks. But I know that we are capable, and I know that we will have the opportunity to be able to showcase, the things that we know we're capable of doing, and those being able to project wins in the win column at the end of the week.
Going on that fourth quarter deep ball that obviously didn't connect. Can you walk us through that? Did you know that play was going, to you? Just kind of what was the process there?
Yeah, shoes, man. We coach called the play. Then Bo called it to us in the huddle. We ran out, lined up, ran it, and then we missed. Simple.
Sutton finished with 6 catches, 118 yards. Obviously, one of those catches was 52. RJ Harvey, 3 catches, 14 yards. Lucas Kroll, 1 catch, 9. Troy Franklin comes back to earth after a great game against the Colts, 2 catches, 8 yards. And then again had a just terrible penalty in the end zone pushing off. Mims 1 for 4. Dobbins 1 target, no yards. And again, and you got where Herbert compared to Bo, you look at the game in terms of Nix and Herbert and Harbaugh and Peyton, I thought Peyton actually coached pretty well in this game, especially had a couple of plays that he drew up. If the play to Mims is hit, he hit the one to Sutton. He had 3 chances for huge plays. If you hit 2 of those, you win easily. I mean, you win going away. I mean, so to me, it's not on Peyton there. And if you want to blame him for the defense on the last drive, I mean, he's not calling the defense. That's Vance. And Vance had been heating him up, and they kind of got a little conservative on that last drive, playing zone, keeping the ball in front of them. But it's the old prevent defense, prevents you from winning. It wasn't that bad, but you almost wish, take a few more chances, because it felt like once they got to around the 30, it just kind of felt inevitable. Like, God, are they really going to give up a touchdown here? That was, to me, the game, that drive. And the Broncos had 2 chances after that, and they couldn't get anything going. But Herbert, 28 of 47, 300 yards, 1 touchdown. And he's playing like an MVP. Hampton had 70 yards. I mean, he and Dobbins were pretty much a draw. But Quentin Johnston's becoming a dude in his 3rd year for the Chargers, former first-round pick from TCU. 10 targets, 6 catches, 89 yards. Keenan Allen, again, absolute just animal on that last drive. Ends up with 7 for 65, including the 20-yard touchdown. Hampton was good out of the backfield, 6 for 59. Again, that's why some of us, myself included, were calling for them to draft him. I wanted them to draft a running back or tight end in the first round, and man, did they use a tight end, because Ingram's out. He missed the game with back issues. We'll see if he returns on Monday. Dre Greenlaw, if you're late to the party, he was placed on short-term IR, so he will miss now ultimately the first 7 games of the season. And the problem with this is we don't know what version of Greenlaw we're going to see. He played 2 games last year, and now he's going to miss the first 7. So you're talking about a guy who's going to end up playing 2 of the last 24 games. And how do they protect him when he comes back so he doesn't get re-injured? Because ultimately, in talking to people, he essentially has had 3 setbacks. One July 31st in camp that we saw with covering Dobbins. Then sometime after the preseason, before the first game, something happened. And then recently, this past week, it didn't respond to something. So, again, it's frustrating. And with Ingram, I don't know if they don't use him right, but the idea he can't beat out Troutman is just so discouraging. His play percentage is all-time low, getting missed this game. But they got to get – I mean, when I picked them to win the division at 11-6, it was because of those two guys. You know, like they're addressing specific liabilities for this team. Well, Greenlaw, I don't know when he's going to play and what it's going to look like. And Ingram, is he still good? Is it just not the fit on the offense? But Adam Troutman's job is like he's becoming the new Lil Jordan Humphrey. Peyton loves him, but he gets a key penalty every game. Like his job is his job to hold and then point out to where to go on the offense? I mean, I don't mean to be that guy, but you can't tell me Ingram can't get on the field in front of him. And I get there's blocking issues involved and all that, but Troutman is taking the role of little Jordan Humphrey, and it's at times it's hurting them because back-to-back weeks he's had really critical penalties. But again, this is a team that's operated with little margin for error, and they did have a chance, and we'll finish with this. They had a chance on the second to last drive before the Chargers came down and tied it. They had a chance to put the game away when they had a fourth. Bo Nix scrambles, 11 yards, and it was third and 12. So it's 4th and 1 with 5:15 remaining. And Nix at their own 29, which obviously is not ideal because if you miss, they're immediately in field goal range. So I asked Peyton after the game, previously like, hey, I understand the time issue, but any thought of going for it there? Like if you had the tush push, you would have gone for it. That's where a play like that is so valuable that it has essentially like a 99.9% success rate on 4th and 1. Nix is not great at the quarterback sneak, in case you're wondering. Not a lot of quarterbacks are, frankly. But here you are, 4th and 1, your own 29, 5:15 left. You get that. You go down and get a field goal, and you likely win the game. Again, this is the almost issue. But Peyton told me afterward they felt better the way the game was going to play field position and punt. And again, it just comes back to that idea that you just keep asking your defense to control it. Well, here's the problem with that. And this is exactly how they lost the first game against the Chargers back in October a year ago. They got the Chargers controlled that game by 14 minutes in terms of winning it in time of possession. Here we are again. Chargers 36-20 time of possession, Broncos 23-40. My point? The defense eventually is vulnerable to wearing down. They're almost like a bullpen in baseball. They're good, and then you overwork them, and even your best players can't get home. They make one mistake. So when I look back on it, it goes back to the same common threads. Lack of discipline, lack of execution. They've got to cut down on the penalties. Formation penalties, obvious penalties, there's a tripping in there. Like that number of 10 has to be around 5 per week, not 10. I don't know where they rank in penalties, but they've got to be near the top in terms of most penalties through 3 weeks. And it's just an embarrassing stat for a Sean Payton team. They got to be better there. And offensively, again, what do they do well? Now, they started to run the ball better. I know some of those linemen wish they would really commit to it and see where it would take them. But what do you hang your hat on? And today, they played well enough to win defensively for 3.5 quarters. Offensively, they played well. Essentially, if you bridge the end of the second quarter and half of the third, they had like one good offensive quarter. That's not enough. And if the defense isn't special, you can't beat good teams. And it means getting a takeaway. They had one fumble they got on a kick return. But you just can't play this game where you need your defense to get 2 or 3 takeaways to set you up. And so no margin for error. And now we went from all the hype to the hope. Like, can they get back on track? Yeah, they can. Plenty of time. But you look, and you have a pathway here because you're going to be favored against the Bengals. I'm sure that line's like 3.5, 4, or 4.5 at home on Monday night in Denver. Then you go to Philly, likely. I mean, you won't be a favorite, say that's a loss. Then you've got the Jets in London, Giants, Cowboys, Raiders. I mean, you can get this thing going again. But then on the back half of that schedule, you've got the Chiefs twice, the Chargers, the Packers, and Washington. So you can't give any more games away. And until further notice, you're the Almost Broncos. Almost good enough. And that's not what we expected or signed up for before the season. Can they back it up? Can this team back up the bravado of the offseason? These guys are taking it personal. I was in that locker room. They're pissed off. They're frustrated. They're irritated, thinking they could be 3-0. So they're in a good spot. But this next game, they have to make a statement. Put your foot down, and then put yourself in position to go upset a team or two. But right now, it is frustrating. Broncos 1-2, no victory Monday, and they will then have an extra day to prepare. They will get the Bengals, who just got absolutely ears boxed by Minnesota today. So it sets up as a game they should win. And frankly, you need to walk away from that game with style points offensively, where you're just like, you know what? This team looks the part offensively. So, folks, I could not do this pod for you without you. I know it's frustrating, Broncos country, that we're talking about a loss here, but they got to be more disciplined. I mean, they got to play smarter, and they got to be better offensively more consistently. I couldn't do this pod without Ted Shih and his family law practice. Ted's fantastic new friend in my life. I can't thank him enough. And Darby Hoggatt of Hoggatt Injury Law, A1 from day one, Darby. And, of course, Danny Bailey behind the screen and Nate Lundy of Mile High Sports. They're the platform. They're the guys that make all the great graphics and make this happen. Broncos country, I do this pod for you. Happiness that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.